It's tabletop time.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Murray.
And I'm Dave, and today we're going to be finishing that Space Marine squad that we promised last year. Look, I'm glad I've got help. This is awesome. So between the three of us, I think we should be able to smash through this pretty confidently. The mission is paint 4 men to fill out his squad. And then we're going to have a giant battle of Kill Team at full McFarlane Toys miniature
Nice.
scale.
A little bit of Kill Team aesthetic.
I'd like to see what you guys can do, and then when we get to painting, we'll all pitch in and get it done.
Sweet.
Okay, cool.
Group project awkward high five.
Yeah.
Star wipe cut.
I'm thinking of 2 ideas. So first of all, I think the bandolier of grenades is really cool and would give a lot of character to one of them. So I think one of them should definitely have that. But I'm thinking if we can hack away at one of the arms or something, get some pistons and the like, you can have a nice metallic prosthetic arm. So that's my plan for one of them. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking I want to kind of go super regal with this dude. But this is going to be a lot of work.
I like that. Yeah, that's going full hardcore. One of my dudes is the guy with the plasma cannon. Could make him a complete gun nut.
More like Rambo style. Maybe really dirty, really gross.
All right, so he's pretty good. This guy just has the hand so far.
Maybe there's patches of the armor that's missing, so then you can see like wires inside it or something.
Yeah. Or we could just like bulk out one of the feet,
Oh yeah.
make it look like
More.
he's gone a bit Iron Man. All right, what's your idea for your other one?
I'm thinking maybe we go a bit space fairy, but not quite. I don't want to like
Just a nice
completely rip
reference.
it off.
Yeah, like he's not a member of the Space Marine Scouts, but he enjoyed his time there a bit too much.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Sweet.
Cool. Okay.
All right.
Well, I think that we've got some concepts ready to go, which is awesome. So we should get making.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's do it.
Sweet.
So while Jen and Murray were working hard on these Space Marines, I knew this week I was actually going to be working mostly on Yngdrastar, but I had a good chunk of time that I could help out right at the start of the project. I primed all of the Space Marines black, and then from just above the horizon line, I sprayed in ultramarine blue to establish the base color. From there, I took the models to an airbrush booth, and mixing in some wolf gray, highlighted all the armor panels, focusing primarily on the raised areas and directly above the model. With that done, I ran upstairs to dive into Oculus Medium. The first base I wanted to have a bit of a mechanical touch, so using some spare widgets in Oculus Medium, I created what I thought was sort of like a dreadnought arm hinge or some kind of construct or automaton's arm. On the second base, I used what I think is meant to be a widget of a can, and I peppered these across the base, thinking they looked very good as shell casings. I was definitely pondering the tactical marine when I made this base. For the third base, I made a rocky rise and a couple of bits of low cover. And for the final base, I put a tank hatch in the ground. Kind of like the idea that this is a fallout shelter or the entrance to an underground bunker for some of the citizens of this planet. With that done, I felt like I could set this ship off to sail, and I'm really excited to see what Murray and Jen come up with.
I started with the plasma cannon wielding Space Marine, as I really wanted to try all the metal areas that I was going to basically turn him into a cyborg, a damaged warrior who just keeps on going. I bulked up all of the big parts using green stuff. Really, I just blocked out the foot into really big square shapes, and then added some mechanical parts to sort of simulate that the rest of the leg underneath was also augmented. I sculpted a heat shield to help protect his face, sort of simulating how much he uses this plasma weapon and how much it goes wrong for him. The arm I really had fun on. I took the whole thing off at about the elbow and then just added bits of plastic card, bits of plastic pipe, some spare Space Marine sprue parts, always proving that hoarding Warhammer parts is always a good idea. When converting his actual hand, I knew I wanted to change his fingers somehow, but I didn't think that green stuff would be a good enough alternative for the fingers. But luckily, in the spare parts, I found the fingers to Jazz's Space Bear Dreadnought, and they miraculously were a perfect fit. I knew from my initial designs that I wanted to paint a sort of charred and burnt patch along one half of him where his gun energy coil would sort of be closest to. To get this burnt and damaged look on the metal, I diluted down contrast paints, mostly yellow, red, and purples, just to sort of simulate that sort of rainbow tint as it goes towards where the scorch mark is, which I then stippled on using blacks and browns. For the plasma coil itself, I wanted to paint it like it was emanating the energy from within, rather than simply the coils themselves glowing. To start off this effect, I painted the entire coil bone white, then I added gradually more and more blue to the mix, going down to a dark blue for the topmost part, where you'd usually highlight the energy coil. And then to make the glowing effect really punch, I dabbed a small amount of very diluted white paint, so it almost formed an ink into the deepest recesses. Then to really give the effect of the blue energy spilling over, I used a blue glaze around the edges of the metal to really give that effect. And then to make sure that all my hard work didn't go to waste, when it came to streaking and griming him, I covered the entire energy coil up with masking tape.
So it's been a very busy first day. I've actually been working on some other projects. A whole bunch of my time got taken up that I didn't expect, but I have managed to get the bases done and they're printing. But Jen and Murray, you've been hard at work today. Must be pretty tired. Ready to go home? Have some dinner?
Yeah, definitely.
What's for dinner?
Oh, I've been saving like half a cup of instant noodles.
What? Nice. We're having HelloFresh, the sponsor of our video.
Woo!
So why don't you come with us? Back to our place. We'll have some dinner. It's gonna be great.
Oh, can I come?
No.
No.
We've got 3 different options. We've got a cottage pie, a pork and pineapple rice bowl, or a mustard and thyme chorizo topping. We're gonna go with the Caribbean pork and pineapple rice bowl with salsa. This says it should take about 15 minutes for us to make and eat.
HelloFresh is a meal delivery subscription service, sending you recipes and fresh ingredients for you to cook amazing recipes at home.
Everything gets delivered fresh straight to your door, so you can just get ready and start cooking.
You work 2 jobs.
Yes.
And you have to travel multiple hours a day.
Yes.
Cooking
Yes.
and easiness. Talk about it.
I dedicate pretty much a day to shopping, which is my weekend, which is my time off. And just coming up with new recipes kind of sucks. It gets a bit hectic sometimes.
HelloFresh's plans are super flexible, so you can adjust as you need, adding meals if you need extra lunches or dinners, or changing the proteins, getting some more of that in there as well.
No, it's really nice, and I wouldn't have thought to come up with it myself, so it's interesting. I like it.
It's really fresh. I would usually sort of make something similar to this, but it takes me about 10 times the amount of time it took us to make this. Dave, what are your thoughts on it?
Go to HelloFresh.com and use the code TabletopTime16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts.
It was so good and so easy, and I think we don't take enough time to look after ourselves. Maybe consider HelloFresh. It was very delicious, and
Do it again.
I look forward to the other 2 meals we've got in the
Yeah.
box.
So Murray's all done with the sculpting process, and this guy just looks so cool. I love his robes, and it just looks like it's got so much movement and elegance to it. He's done a phenomenal job. So now it's time to finally paint him. I decided with the robes that I wanted to do a contrasting color, which in this case is this beautiful deep red burgundy color. Usually red is contrasting to blue, but I wanted to give it the royal sort of edge, like it's satin or silk, because he's a fancy space marine. He only deserves the best, right? So I went ahead and just painted this a beautiful bright red color, and then I knew that we could come back in later and give it those textures that we were looking for. I wanted to make this guy really special, so I decided I wanted to try and put a pattern on him. There's something about diamonds for me that just sort of screams regal and impressive and strong and king. I don't know, maybe it's got something to do with like cards, but I decided I really wanted to try and do a diamond pattern. Now, my technique is not amazing. I decided the best method would be to try and use sticky tape, which kind of worked. I was in a bit of a rush to get it done and I kind of got a little bit frustrated towards the end of it. The proof is there, it does work. You just, I think, need to spend a bit more time than I did. And I thought I could freehand a lot of it in the end, which, hey, it turned out pretty cool. So I'm pretty impressed. I think on a model this size, this was completely capable within my capabilities, but for anything smaller, this would be a real struggle. So props to anyone who can do this on an actual mini. With all the little pieces painted, this guy was pretty much done and just needed to move on to Murray for some streaking grime.
Alright, this boy I was dubbing our tactical marine. He was obsessed with grenades, knives, and anything to do with rifles. I decided to use green stuff to sculpt a sort of half cloak, a hip cloak. I'm sure there's a very specific name for this, but hip cloak it is. Then I used milliput, which is a bit softer to work with, to create all the leather harnesses and straps on his shoulder pads. When painting his hip cloak, I sort of started doing a traditional layering and shading technique and then realized that streak and grime would probably do most of the work and cover any effort that I expended here anyway. So I focused more on the highlights and I decided to go with the cross-hatching pattern to sort of give a really rough feel and nature to the fabric. I started with browns and then worked my way up to adding more and more grey to give a sort of a weathered and beaten look.
Okay, it's finally Space Bear time. So this guy is kind of loosely based off of Jazz's Space Bear concept. I wanted to give him the fur collar and make him look really dusty and dirty and like he's got into a fight, and Murray's done an exceptional job of making that come to life. To start with, I painted all of the straps and leather again, just in that brown color, making sure it matched up with the previous concepts as well. It was uniform all across the board. I also put a base color on the fur that he has on his collar and the loincloth he has as well. These are quite textured pieces, so I didn't have to worry too much about putting more color on them. They'd pretty much do justice with just a bit of a dry brush once the base color had dried. I noticed that Murray had sculpted in this necklace and it had some feathers on it, and I thought, well, what could be more Australian than putting on magpie feathers? So I decided to paint them as magpie feathers with a bit of white and black and gave them a little bit of texture as well, just to make sure that they looked like feathers. And just really representing that Australian sort of bear vibe. Not that we get bears in Australia, but you know, I love bears and I'm from Australia, so you know, represent. Lastly, I just wanted to put in that little Space Bears logo that we had been using in all of the Space Bears iconography. I just painted this in with a simple blue color and just tried to match it up as close as I could. Trying to keep it sort of splotchy, like it's been hastily painted on or sponged on. It doesn't need to be perfect. The more weathered, the better.
So thank you all to our wonderful patrons. This was one that you asked for. We got a lot of enthusiasm for finishing out the Space Marine squad. And speaking of patrons, thank you to our brand new patrons who've just joined us.
Rodney Hussman,
Owen Harrison,
Chloe Chippers,
Pit Crew Design,
Coley L,
Jasmine Rigg. Thank you once again, and I hope you're enjoying these Fancy little shots. I always feel weirdly intimate in these reads. Welcome to my studio. Hope you're enjoying our models. So while I did get to spend some time working on the bases and designing them, and I did a bit of the airbrushing, this one's massive for you guys, especially Murray. The lion's share of the work has been done by you, and I'm super impressed. I feel like I made an entry into this series, and you guys have just taken on the work and really done awesomely. These look super cool.
It was so much fun working on this project. I think working as a team is something that we don't really do very often, so it was really great to work together and come up with some ideas.
But now where we're definitely going to need your help is, what are their enemies? There's Necrons, Orcs, Chaos Space Marines, Sisters of Battle. There's a fair few McFarlane options now. Which ones should we do? Let us know in the comments, and patrons, let us know in Discord. And finally, thank you to our sponsor HelloFresh. It was delicious eating your delicious meals, and I'm just glad I'm getting to eat Space Marine
Chowder.
What the f was I saying with that?
I don't know.
I know, it was fun to watch though.
HelloFresh is definitely better than that though.
HelloFresh is really yummy.
It tastes yummy in my tummy.
You know what else tastes really yummy? Whatever this goo is coming out of the plants.
Oh, that didn't rhyme.